some of the furthest away, sometimes it's due to the kids' mental, like if they are homeless and they are in kind of temporary locations. So that's why some of it is spread out, but a lot of it is due to being a citywide school. So just looking at this, we can kind of visualize like some of the resources, or at least start looking at resources in different pockets, because it's not going to be just resources in the areas around the school, but resources, let's say we clump this zone together, this zone, and so forth and so on. So, any thoughts from just looking at that?
Is there a legend? I'm sorry to be so ignorant.
Nope.
That green and yellow represents.
So the green, the blue is one. So there's one student
Got it.
in the household. The green is, there's about four families in that neighborhood. The yellow is more than 4.
So the green is one student.
No, the blue is one
The
student.
blue is, okay, so
Oh,
blue
yeah.
is one student.
Blue is one student. Green is like up to,
2 to 4.
yeah, about 8.
Green.
8 is the largest.
Is 2 to 4 students.
2 to 8,
Oh, 2 to 8.
yeah.
And yellow is more than that.
Yep.
Do you have a picture where I can actually see the numbers in here?
I think so, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
But at least visually, it kind of makes it a little bit easier to see where most of our largest population
Right.
live. And we actually had it up when the superintendent was here, and he kind of took a look at it and was talking about being that we're a citywide school, you know, it makes sense that our asset map looks like that. But his concern is that all the schools look like that.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, the issues that we're having now because of transportation. We spend a lot transporting kids back and forth because all the schools look like that, so.
Yeah, we've been talking about changing the busing, but especially this year with all the budget crunch, you know, I've gotten responses from a few agencies saying, my God, we got so many other things to worry about. But you gotta fix it sooner or later.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So the next thing I want to move us into is, we have one right here. 2 things I want us to take a look at. At the beginning of the school year, I created a communication survey, which is at the top for the parents to just get a sense of like, how do they feel about how the school's been communicating with them, and is there a preferred method, whether it's robocalls or flyers home or whatnot. So what I want us to do is the second packet that's in it is the data from the survey that I'm gonna ask once we break up into, today it'll be 2 subgroups to take a look at the information.
And this is on the shared drive. to
This
get the-
information, I believe it is, but if it's not, I'll make sure that I
Okay.
It is,
Yeah.
because I looked at it.
Okay. So we'll be able to break up into 2 subgroups and kind of take a look at the data and kind of outline some of the things that we may need to work on. Yes.
Sorry, good question. What does 1, 2, and 3 refer to? There were at least
That's
2.
why I put a copy of the actual survey, because sometimes it like
Oh,
comes out
okay, yeah.
a little different. So I can access internet on a mobile device. So it's either never or always. So 1 is like a never.
Where is that?
Oh, that should be,
Oh, there it is.
yeah.
Sorry. Good. Now I see.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's why I put it, because when I pull the information, it doesn't really take everything with it. So that's the first data that we're gonna look at. The second one is the needs assessment for the staff that we can take a look at. And this was as of December 5th, the data that's been collected. And I wrote on the agenda some of the focus, well, actually on here, this template, what we want to do. So when we're looking at and analyzing data, we want to try to identify 5 high priority needs. According to the assessment, what did they identify as a need in order to be successful or successfully communicate, if we're talking about the communication survey? And what do they like about our community? What do they not like? And what do they envision? And then from that, we can kind of share out and talk about like possible things that we may need to work on in order to improve in the areas that were high needs. So I figure 5 is a good number. Some of the readings that I've done, the needs assessment toolkit mentions stick to 5 and start from there. You don't want a large number and then you can't meet all of the goals that you set. So everyone has both of them. So if we split up into 2 groups and one group focuses on the communication and another one focuses on the staff survey, and then we'll kind of share out. Any preference?
I can move over there.
We're gonna do staff.
Okay,
We do school communication, we'll do the
Oh, okay.
parents.
okay.
And girls, princess, right?
Yep. You want to go over there?
I'll pull up a chair on the other side if it'll make it easier to talk. Rather than
I don't think you need it.
Oh, good, yep. Okay, what are we doing?
We're looking at
They're doing
parent communication survey.
Okay.
So we're talking about how the parents want to get communication or need as far
Right.
as communicating.
So the first question is the regular and consistent access to internet.
Yeah, overwhelmingly.
Were they working on getting the whole city access to internet?
Yes,
Is that still in the work?
I believe that's still in the works because that's part of the grant
Where they
for
have the
the Chromebooks.
technology to take home?
Yeah,
Okay,
and that's a grant, so they can't really touch that. It's kind of
okay.
catered towards that purpose.
So it'd be nice to target that small percentage that doesn't and figure out what the issue is. 'Cause it's like most,
People can
you're right, communication access is not an issue for the vast majority of it.
definitely.
It sounds like the majority has access from a mobile device, which
Right.
makes sense. Because it's economically feasible to have a phone, you can use it for more than one thing, and then tablets, kids all want one of those tablets, right?
Yeah.
I think if we're also looking at least a small percentage that don't, is kind of identifying maybe what locations they're in, because the public libraries usually have the internet that they can easily access. And yesterday we were talking at school base about we're a Zern school, so we're using technology to do math lessons. And if the kids need to catch up, they can always go to the public library if they don't have access. So maybe identifying that small percentage and then figuring out what's the closest library, looking at the asset map to kind of identify, maybe making a list of other locations besides just the public library.
Except that maybe these are the kids that their parents least have the time to take them to the library. So there are programs that for low income, I just don't remember the details anymore, that there are access programs for low income students to get internet at home at a either free or drastically reduced rate. If we're talking about a fairly limited percentage of our kids, then maybe a program like that, we could get them all connected at home, and that would be the most, give them the best chance.
Yeah, maybe their parents are at work when it's time for them to be able to access it.
Right. It needs to be unusual hours, or or when other kids in the family aren't demanding attention. That probably their schedules are the most challenged, and single parent or whatever, and so we need to make it as convenient as possible. So
Yeah, at least it's been a couple of years since I really worried about it, but there was a time when the district had some agreement with Time Warner, I think it was, to get
I think that's
a hookup at home.
exactly,
Yeah,
it's
that's
part
the
of their
most
deal,
recent. Yeah.
right?
You said that's the most
That's the
recent.
most recent, because they didn't have it when I was teaching.
Yeah.
But
Right.
since I retired, I've only been retired 5 years,
Yeah.
I've heard about that.
It was the
I
deal
think
they
that's
made to get
yeah.
Charter to buy the thing. They had to provide a program for
Access
them.
for that, I get
So,
it.
We need to, and
it's
it's,
a cable. What are they? Cable? No.
oh,
Yeah, it was a cable,
now it's
High
Spectrum,
speed
though,
internet,
right?
yeah,
Right,
Spectrum.
it's
Spectrum
Spectrum,
has-
that's what I was trying to think. I'm
Right.
like, what's the company's name?
Spectrum
Whoever
has an
the,
access program.
It used to be Time Warner, but now.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Whoever's in charge of communications in the district right now is the person to talk to, I guess.
Right.
Focus level or something to that effect. So teachers would have areas to facilitate departmental.
That's how
It
it's
works and then it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think
Right.
it's cold. I have an extra pen if you need it.
Yes, please, 'cause I don't know if any of
Actually, do you want to just type what we're doing right
Right in there.
Yes.
Yes.
Here you go.
Thank you.
The first one is
I don't get the nice one because I feel if you're a parent or a family, you want to know as soon as possible about anything that's going on at school. So if it's not important to you, I'm confused.
Well, it says, 88.4%. We're at a number 3.
Right, so two are saying yes, but it's not like the most important thing. It's what I imagine is their,
Okay.
in other words, they've got other issues that they want to save that very important level for.
I gotcha.
But they're not saying it's not important.
All right.
I'm just interpreting, but that would be my guess. Because nobody said it's not important. And then receiving messages, what's interesting is there is a slightly higher percentage than the ones who don't have internet access, who somehow indicate they can't receive, in a variety of ways.
Mhm.
Got it. So that means more, right, they don't have it from more than one way there. Okay. But it's about almost the same percentage.
So a lot of them can.
Most can, yeah. But all, between the strongly agree and neutral, you're talking, over 90%.
just A6.
Yeah, I don't know how it is with cell phones, but I know our home phone, we get so many junk mail calls, robocalls, that
The spam.
unless you recognize the name, you tend not to pick it up because there'll be nothing there.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that hurts the
Well, yeah.
communications by phone.
Or maybe just making sure they know what the school number is and the district number, so when they see it, they recognize it. You know,
Right, right.
because actually you're told if it's a number you don't know, don't answer it, because there's so much, spam and other stuff out there.
But it should say what most caller IDs on phones will identify the
Yeah.
caller if it's a registered
Yeah.
name with the number. So we should make sure that
Mine
the
says
school's
school 10.
Does it
I'm
show
not
up?
sure if that's from me or from them. What does yours
See,
say?
mine will say school 10, but it doesn't say if it's coming from like downtown or something. It'll just be 262, whatever.
Yeah, the 262 number is central office.
Right.
And
But
then
it doesn't
our
say
number is like
central office.
Yeah, the building number is like 324. So I agree in making sure that parents know, like, the 262 is central office, the 324 is, on the building level. But when we move back, then we have to also make sure that they know the new number.
Well,
So,
The number was brought over from the old
oh,
building.
was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's the
So-
same number.
All right, so 262 central. But then I'm also wondering, because I remember at one of the principal coffee hour, we were talking about not everyone getting robocalls. So figuring out,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's someone new that wasn't getting a call,
yeah,
so I'm not sure.
And the
what
thing
was
with
going on that.
with the robocalls, they can only, for each house, each child, they can only recognize one number. So I had to switch my granddaughter. I had to put my number as the robocall number because they were calling my daughter who can't answer the phone. She's customer service.
Yeah.
So that time when you guys were over at Jefferson,
yeah.
I didn't get the call. I just happened to call here and found out you were going to be at Jefferson.
Gotcha.
She got the call, but her phone is in her car
Yeah.
because she can't use it at work. So they had to switch and put mine. They can only put one number for each student. So they had to switch and put my number.
Is there a way at the beginning of the year to, I remember when they put my husband's, all the employees on a system for being alerted to various things. The first time, they had a response, system, so they knew that everybody was getting.
Like a test?
Yeah, like, exactly, a test. Is there a way to run a test message in the beginning to at least try to identify the people
Like you
who?
would press 1 if you got the message
Yeah,
or something?
right, make it
That sounds like a good idea.
and then we could at least identify the families that aren't getting them or are,
And I think a lot of families move around or they switch their phone number, things like that, and they might not be on top of it, so, because they're so busy.
right, but having that little bit of information might be useful to know that you might have to reach out in another way for those particular families. I don't know how difficult it is, it was just an idea. See if somebody downtown knows if there's a way to make that happen easily.
I know that when the district, for attendance-wise, when the robocall goes out for attendance, there's usually like, it collects data, like how long the person kind of just held the phone to if there was a message left or if it was a wrong number. So
so
there's
they're
a
getting
data
some
that,
data.
yeah, for at least for the attendance part. I'm not sure if it could be used the same way.
Yeah.
So that's something that we could definitely find out, at least at the beginning of the school year.
Yeah.
But definitely making sure we have the right numbers, which is why the emergency contact sheets are important, and then which number should the robocall go to?
Yeah.
If you send something, if you do robocall to X number of parents for whatever issue it is, do you also use an email connection in case?
I feel like
Robo-
right now, no, and I know my son's school does because I literally picked up the phone for a robocall and then the email came at the same time and I was sitting in front of it. But it had never happened like that before, so I don't know if that's done simultaneously or someone clicked it by accident, but that's something we can definitely look into.
Yeah, the parents seem to want that because the next question just says, or asks them if it's important to receive messages in a variety of ways, and 86% said yes.
Yeah.
So they probably want
If
it.
you can't have your phone, maybe you can have email, so you get a notification.
Okay,
There's a lot of things they can do with phones. I know my husband worked for social services, and I always wondered why the district doesn't have this. But if they get somebody who speaks another language, there's a button they push for that language, and somebody will come on to talk to the person in that language.
Nice.
So I'm like, they've had it for years. I mean, as many different languages that are spoken in the district.
Yeah.
I'm like, why haven't they had something like that? Because that's another issue. The robocall may be going out, but it's going out to families that don't speak English.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're getting the message, but they don't know what it is.
That's very true. Okay, so let's look at the next area, which is, it is important to me that I can receive messages from our school in a variety of ways through cell phone, imprint, or computer.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
we were just talking
Through
about.
robocall and email or
Yeah.
something. It sounds like they prefer that rather
Yeah.
than having to rely on just one.
And I feel like print, sending it, you know, hopefully we'll be able to go green at some point and not be able to, you know, not necessarily send it out in print, but not everybody is friends with technology, so I feel like that's something we'd have to keep around.
But most are, 93%
Yeah.
are basically using their cell phones, so they probably get email on there too. So you'd still reach 93% of the people through an email in addition to a robocall.
Yeah,
I mean, they need exposure to it.
that's true.
But I think we always have to realize that technology is only good sometimes because it can break down, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm a paper pencil person.
Yeah.
I just like, you know, I get email, but I always tell people if you really want me to know something, call me because I don't just sit at my computer. I'm busy all day.
Definitely.
And actually, my response was stupid probably because they're probably relying on one device. So
Yeah.
if sending two different forms of messages to one device, if there's a problem with that device, they're not going to get either one. So
Exactly.
really, two different forms of communication are probably a good idea. Sorry.
No, you're fine. The next page kind of focuses on, I'm satisfied with the way I'm currently receiving messages from our school.
Right after
Oh, did we do the website is an engaging destination? Did you want to talk about, because that one was, I think was the
Oh.
lowest response of almost anything.
I didn't even see that.
Oh, no, that, actually not the next. Well, it has about
No,
half of the
it's-
people, right?
yeah.
Although
Well,
three-quarters are agreeing or,
A lot of people are putting
Neutral.
that it's neutral,
Yeah.
which I'm gonna take that as, they don't believe it's as engaging.
you're right, it's not grabbing them.
Yeah.
It's not, all right, so,
And I've been trying to stay on top of the website, but I feel like maybe, I don't know how friendly it is on, you know, other people's devices and how it looks sometimes. Because depending on like what software or program they use, it's different. Like I use my district computer so I can see everything. But someone else, depending on what device and what computer, everything may not pop up and it might look all different. So
It does look different.
yeah, that's what I figured. So that's the hard part. As a district, they want each building to have a website. So that's something that we just have to try to keep up. But I think, like, we've started doing more of the social media with Facebook and Twitter and things like that. That's not necessarily like our official, like, website,
Right.
but I feel like that's another way and another platform that we can reach families. So trying to make sure we update that as much as possible.
Yeah, one thing with the website, I think it's important that we get all the teachers filling in their page on there. You know, 'cause
Oh, yeah.
I go to, sometimes I'll try to look up somebody and it's if half the teachers aren't registered on there, some websites, they'll list first name, sometimes they don't. It gets difficult to really, especially if you've got kids in 2 or 3 schools,
That's
to
true.
have consistency, to know that I can go there and look at that.
That's true.
It'd be interesting to know what are the preferences of where they want to be able to go for information.
So all he's doing is initial sounds.
I know at one of the either PTO or principal's coffee hour, actually Miss Lorraine's daughter mentioned that she'll look at Facebook or social media before she would look on the website, because
Yeah.
at least with social media, once you update, if they have it where the message, if it updates, then it'll pop up on their phone. So I feel like that's why people would go there first as opposed to our website, because there isn't like a notification like your school has updated their site. It's more like, okay, I'll check now. It's not updated, so I'm not going back. So
Exactly.
I think it's the notification.
It's not
piece.
reliable because you've already tried it.
Exactly.
Right.
It's easier to find information some other way.
Exactly. I think the notifications are key, because if parents don't have enough time, they want to know, am I supposed to look on there now? Or am I going to have to go up on the site like 5 different times in order to find what I'm looking for?
Right.
So,
Right. And then you have to figure out where you have to go to find it.
Exactly.
We all know that just from using different websites.
Yes. Right, and then educating people, this is where you'll find the most up-to-date information, so they're not looking at, getting frustrated, going to all the different options. And anyway,
No, I like that.
Yes, which meaning we departmentalize so that people who are have the background and knowledge experience and
I'll definitely put that down, because we did talk about that.
Can you put the newsletter on the website, or is it on there?
Yes, it is on there, but
Okay.
again, like you said, it's finding it, because
Yeah.
they're in tabs.
Yes.
I was actually working on the website earlier today, and it's a matter of like, okay, I have to find the right tab. I have to like put the text, what I want it to say, then upload it. So it's kind of like in a folder. It's not on that main page. So I haven't, figured out how to get it on that main page in order for it to be someplace where if they get on, they see it. But on Facebook, and Twitter, I put the newsletter on there, and the parents are able to find it and click it. And because it's we're using a sort of program, it kind of collects data like what locations are accessing the newsletter, or how often or how many people. So that's the good thing about that, but definitely.
Yeah, when something first gets put on the page, usually you get a notification, but I'm wondering if you go back 3 days later to look for that, is it easy to find on the
On the
Facebook
website
page?
or Facebook?
Facebook.
Facebook, if you go on the page and you scroll down,
it's chronological,
yeah,
so you
so
can go.
the most recent stuff will be at the top, and the past things would be at the bottom. So those things don't ever erase. So it's just a matter of like scrolling on Facebook and Twitter too. So once you're on the school's Facebook page and Twitter, just scroll down if you want to see things from earlier. But like I said, with the website, it's finding the tab, finding the folder, and then clicking into it. Because sometimes the link and the connection might work, sometimes it may not. So that's the issue too with the website, which is why so many of our families don't visit it as often. Screen.
Well, that's even with the district's
Their
website.
Register City School District website?
Yeah, because I'm back volunteering a couple days a week at my old school, and my girlfriend was saying, you need to go online and fill out the volunteer form. Can't
You can
find a
find it?
volunteer form.
I had
It's in
trouble
a
finding
tab,
something.
in a folder,
Yeah.
on another page that you have to click, and it'll take you to.
Which is why my email address is what it is.
Can't stand computers.
It took me a long time to find something on that as well, but they did make changes to it this year.
Yeah.
What was this year that I was trying to find a volunteer tab?
I think
I haven't found it yet.
I think it depends on what it is. Because even for me, like, if you want to find the board minutes, like, you have to go on the main page.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you
yeah,
have- You know, like, just different things, and it's like, okay, I just want to look on the page, and then for it to be like, here it is. So I feel like that's one of the main reasons why parents won't go there, as opposed to social media. It'll just be like, oh, they update it. Okay, do I want to read this now or later? You know, they make the decision. So at least a notification will tell them what it's about, and they can come back to it later when the website doesn't really give them that information. Like, they actually have to search for it. So I don't know how to really fix that, because that's like a district kind of thing. So I think it's just a matter of us maintaining that, but definitely using it.
I think it hasn't been updated as much. So, and I've looked at other school websites too, and they're not always kept up to date, so.
Because it's hard.
Right, a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So maybe possibly in the future, they should find a program that's easier to work with.
I wonder, because I run into some of the same stuff. I have Location 19, which is a kind of a canned website that I get through Ning. And we've been using that for 10 years to kind of document the stuff we're doing with the schools. And so we've got a group on that site where we've got tons of stuff. You wouldn't know it just going to Location 19 itself, because you have to know how to navigate down into all that. And I keep saying I've got to do a video to help people, so that on the front page you can have how-to videos, and that might be something that would be handy to have for the various school pages that are out there. It would help, of course, if all the schools kind of organize things the same way, which they kind of, I think, the district, when they set up all those pages for different schools, kind of tried to lay things out. But, how do you find the teacher's name? How do you find thus and such? And those can be, those will be YouTube videos, but you've got the link to them so that somebody goes to the page. How to find things on this site would be a button that you pick, and then page opens up that shows all the various, to find this, to find that, to find that. Then once the person has done it once or twice, then they know it. But if they never get walked through, it's just a maze that confuses them.
Yeah.
And I think part of the issue, especially for elementary school, the district had put out, I don't know how, maybe my last few years of teaching, that, parents can now go online and find their
Parent Connect.
Right, but it's not a requirement, and a lot of teachers don't have those pages. Middle school and high school, yes, they've been doing for years, but the district put it out there as though the parents can just go in and find, the grades and everything. I'm like, that's not on there for elementary school. And if you had parents who thought they could do that and then went and found out they couldn't do that, then that might have just turned them off. Said, well, it's not worth it.
You're definitely right. And they keep trying to promote that, but I feel like they're also not giving the how-to to the teachers.
Right, and
So
it's not a
teachers
requirement.
Teachers don't know how to put that, at least for elementary. With high school, it's kind of connected with their grade book.
Right.
So that things could just pop up. With elementary, I've never, as a classroom teacher, gone to see how does it connect. I would have to pull that information and put it on Parent Connect, or is it linked to, grade book?
Right, because I have a teacher who I mentored when she first started. I think she's been teaching 19 years now. And if you go to her page, because she's, does all that.
Yeah.
So if you go to her school page, you can find information about what they're doing in the classroom, whatever. But then I go to other teachers' pages in the same building, and there's nothing there.
Yeah,
So
that's very true. So that's something I think I read about.
I haven't heard anything about the Rock Connect for a very long time.
They always send home notices, because my son goes to 52, so they send home notices at the beginning of the school year on what your passcode is and how to access, or like what the link is, but it's like what's there. Like I need to know if I'm going to sit down and really go on the site, what information are you going to give me about my, about my son's school. If it's not like high school where I can quickly figure out what grades, then it makes it like, why am I wasting my time sometimes, as a parent? So that's what, I think would be real difficult.
Yeah.
So let's look at, am I satisfied with the way I'm currently receiving messages from our students?
Only slightly less than half are agree or strongly or positive in that answer.
Yeah.
43, actually slightly less than who are neutral.
So then
Something to
that's,
look into.
yeah, that we need to improve.
We need more information.
Right, because the majority of them do have internet access and have more than one device to do that from, but they're still not satisfied with how they're receiving messages. So there's got to be a disconnect.
So maybe the question is, maybe let's come up with another question, kind of follow up.
or if it's a nurse, or maybe something has happened with kids and then they don't know until the child gets home.
So like, let's say behavioral.
Because I know for me, we used to, give my students like one chance to screw up. And after that, then they knew it's a phone call home or a visit home. It said, I know where you live. So.
Foundational reading skills, departmentalized, and teachers.
How often do teachers at this school get to visit parents? Because the kids are spread all over the city. Is there any effort to really make home visits?
Well, a lot of the home visits that I know of that happens deal with attendance. So making a visit to find out, like, especially earlier on, like what could we do to help support students who have are severely chronic with attendance. As far as teachers visiting homes for other reasons, that's information that I don't know. But it is a good question, because like you were saying, like there are some teachers who are quick to pick up the phone, and I know there are some teachers who communicate with parents via Class Dojo, but not all teachers are using it. So maybe that's why this question is kind of, it looks the way it looks, because some classrooms may be getting the information from their teachers as quickly, and then some classrooms are not. So that's something that we may need to look into, like how are teachers communicating with families? Because if it's a situation within the classroom, then it's more of, how is the teacher themselves? Because as an administrator, if you don't know about the situation, it's hard to make that phone call home,
Sure.
Or even positive communications. I know I would have just a list, 5 spaces, and it was called positive phone call home. And so throughout the day, if their name got up there, then they knew that evening I would call their parents to let them know that they had a really good day. And so it would be different kids every day, 5 days out the week, 4 kids, that's 20 kids right there. So then if I had to call them about something negative, we already had that rapport.
Yeah.
I'm just writing this down. The last one just has to do with PTO and volunteering.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
So let's go back to this sheet, the high priority needs, and kind of identify like 5 that we need to work on according to like what we've noticed. And one thing that with doing a needs assessment electronically, that's one method. Like we are for certain questions, we need to have like a follow-up with parents, maybe at a PTO or one of the coffee hours, and ask that question about communication, and which method they would prefer or how they're getting it now. So, or having a discussion group in regards to kind of communication and other things too. So let's at least start with 5, and then we'll write down the follow-up questions. I think I wrote a couple down as we were talking. So the idea of the majority have access, I don't think there's any need there besides finding out that 7%. So find out.
How were just clarification, how were these responses received, the results that are on here?
They were done pencil and paper because I started doing it in September.
Oh, okay.
So I inputted all of that information into the computer.
And how did you identify the respondents? In person, was it?
No.
Okay.
The one section that I did leave out is
Ms. LaCroix, please report to the main office. Ms. LaCroix, please report to the main office.
The section that I didn't put on here is, I believe the first part is their name and their child's name.
Sure.
So I can go back in and pull that information to be able to see.
Right, but I'm just wondering how skewed the data is in that, are these people who stepped up to respond right away, or are they really a cross-section of all the students? So that, if we know that 90 or 93% or 92% of the respondents here have internet access, is that because the way they responded was because they probably had internet access?
Well, no, they
Oh.
responded pencil and paper. So I printed off the actual survey, and I had it for them to fill out during like different open house.
Oh, okay.
I handed them out. We handed them out at like a kindergarten cookies and Kleenex event where the parents came in to find out about kindergarten, the health fair, just different events that we had. I had them out and available when they were picking up their kids at the end of the day. Some of them, while they were waiting, were able to fill it out.
Oh, good.
So
Okay.
they, filled it out pencil and paper. So none of them really filled it out electronically.
Okay.
Right.
And what percent of the parents do you think filled something out? Do you have it?
It has a number, so it's about 43.
43 out of,
We have, 300 and like in the 20s.
but some of them have more than one child here, probably,
Yes,
right? So,
yeah.
I don't know how many
So
different
not everyone,
families. Right.
exactly. So not all the families, because I'm not able to, unless I go door to door. So I haven't tried that yet.
No.
Well,
That's
and
gonna take some time.
And that's partly because of busing again,
Right.
Yeah,
So at some, like you said, after school or whatever, you're not going to get that many parents because the
Yeah.
majority of kids are bused.
yeah,
So it's only if the parents came out to those events,
yeah.
So,
Definitely. So, all right, so find out about that 7%
Right.
and what their,
Hello, how you doing?
want to come join us over here? I'm just sitting here. This is Kelly Briggs. She's the executive director for community schools.
Yeah.
The director. So we are kind of broken up into subgroups. This group has been looking at our communication survey, and the other group is looking at the staff needs assessment. So we're trying to outlined 5 high priorities. So our first one is just looking at the 7% who had an issue with accessing internet. It should be in this packet. Yeah. So that was the first one.
So all the community schools fall under you, is that what I'm hearing? Okay, great, nice to meet you. John Boutte, by the way.
Okay, Kelly Briggs.
Just Sarah.
Okay, Sarah. I know you, I've seen you.
I worked at School 5 before when you were there.
Oh, I remember visual arts.
Yeah, art, yeah.
Yes. And then I know Mrs. Williams.
Yeah, from school 5.
Yeah, character plays together.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we're missing some members, but I figured, oh, now it's clear.
Yeah, they said it was just going to be showers. It's not,
Yes.
you know.
Hopefully it's working because it's been acting funny. All right, so the next page, I'm not sure if we had a question. For that second page, did we have anything? I wrote down like some things, but they're not really question related as far as like high priority that we need to focus on. I wrote down make sure families know what the school number is, central office versus the school. Identify whose number to put on the robocall. I know we discussed robocall text message at the beginning of the school year.
Right.
Possible emailing the robocall information, and then find out if there's an option to do the robocall in different languages. But I don't know, that wasn't really a concern of the parents. Those are all things we were just kind of just jotting down.
Well, it was a need, though, that they identified, that they wanted communications to be through more than one channel. So that's where
So-
those things came from. They came from trying to identify what channels they prefer,
So-
and whether they're using the channels they have, if they're connecting through them. In other words, do they have the right phone number? Do they?
So communicating, I'm gonna write as the second high priority is communicating through different.
Through multiple channels, right?
So I'm gonna put on here, provide resources for parents.
And informing parents about those, so they don't get frustrated looking around at different,
Yeah, because I know.
trying to find where the most
At one time.
important and current information is located.
Yeah.
I love that.
I was trying to think of that one. But the thing is, when they, the district was kind of pushing that even more.
It is important to me that I can receive messages from our school in a variety of ways. So same thing, but we kind of got into discussion around websites. So either which mode or using websites, robocall, email, and print as a combo in order to reach all
Or
the
social
parents.
media.
Or social media, yeah. Because we had a discussion around that the district websites aren't necessarily family friendly because they have to go through the different tabs in order to find the information. Whereas social media, once a page is updated, they get the notification. So they know, okay, I can either check it now or check it later.
And it's free.
That too.
So what I've noticed is,
Although none of that applies to some of the things you were talking about. I mean, if it's a personal information, like health, it's not going to go through the website or social media, so.
No.
like,
Do,
it's a complete
Right, I think I was just asking, we need to find out
on days
when they're talking about they're not receiving information, what information are they referring to? Are they referring to school-wide? Are they referring to their class, the classroom?
I'm like,
Because the survey's more about general
School-wide.
information.
Yeah.
So was there dissatisfaction really with that, or was it
So I said,
more
school-wide
individualized
behavior system,
information?
which we created
Because it's not clear from the question, right?
So the question would be,
Consistency.
what
Clarify,
information?
clarify if the information there,
Pertains to their child's classroom, or
Right.
pertains to
Can
the
we
school in
just
general.
run things so it's like
their dissatisfaction or lack of satisfaction, is that related to
it's more just
school-wide information or to
type
information relating just to their child?
So within the school-wide behavior system, class.
Well, I don't know because I find out it's a majority of primary uses class level.
I know the sixth grade,
Okay. So that's something that can come up in a focus group that we can look into.
if you set it up, you can utilize it as like an actual way to, like, I have teachers who actually put it.
Yep, that was the next one. I think that was it. So really we have, unless I missed something, so the first high priority from this is find out about the 7% and what their major issue is with not being able to access technology.
I mean, it's hard to take some pictures.
Yes.
Tally, you know, right now, I'm currently doing that with one of my fourth graders and
So that's the first. The second is communicating through multiple channels, being able to inform the parents about the different modes that are available or different modes that the school actually uses. And then updating social media / website.
I feel like that's another thing, you know, everybody has.
And then we have the question
Thinking, like, maybe we
of
could, at
follow-up
school,
question
have something that school-wide that fits primary and
for social media, I mean for a focus group.
I'm not really familiar with.
Okay, I won't look up, I'll just keep.
Great stuff. Everybody to see it.
And then what information are they not receiving? School-wide, nurse, teacher, classroom, behavioral, so that's kind of like personal.
Right, that's just a follow-up question also.
Yeah. And then is there anything else?
Well, we talked about the actual school website. Because it says our school website is an engaging destination. Only 23.3% agreed. I mean, 53% were neutral.
But is that covered by your already one about updating?
Yeah. Well, that's more social media, but it's kind of, I think that needs to be kind of separate.
Okay.
Because, like, on my end, when I go to, like, update it, like, the screen and the tabs and stuff gets a little confusing, so it's me getting comfortable in making it so it's a little easier on my end, so that it's updated.
I see.
Social media is a lot easier. I just upload and then I just write a quick caption. So,
And the thing with the school website, I think it's an issue if it's not consistency with the whole
For a
school.
while, we were doing it.
so like
You
the
know.
teacher sites, actually,
Right.
that's what I come in, show you like how to access it, how to log in, what it looks like, and then how to update it and make it like interactive. So that's possibly something that could come back if we find the time.
It's kind of like.
But, so it's kind of fitting that stuff in there.
But we will
So-
need, for ELA.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Are you guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
We just share out. Well, you don't
Did you
seem
go
excited.
to the school
Oh,
website? There's a
well, you
wonderful
can't
art
see.
section. Just so you know.
So you do have, though, since we spent time on just the communication, you do have the staff survey that you can look at, but they're going to share out kind of like that. And I'll tell everyone in a second.
No, that wasn't.
That wasn't you?
All right, so everyone has at least a copy of the both surveys. Today I was able to get into the 6th grade classroom and do their needs assessment in a couple of 4th graders. So what I'm going to do is send out the link to the rest of the staff and see if I'd be able to collect as much information from the students, so the next time we meet, we'd at least be able to kind of look at their end of it and their aspect and what they feel their needs are. So I wanted to start off, if you guys would like to share on, and then I'll share what we have.
So we wanted to look at the top 5 priorities that we need to do. We kind of did only the top 3, just so that we can kind of make sure that we're just focusing on the major ones. So the top 3 were reading improvement with 82%, social emotional needs with 82%, and then behavior management with 71%. Within reading improvement, we said, intervention, consistent reading programs within the building. Over the past, at least since I've been here, I've now done 2 different reading programs since I've been here. So, having a consistent reading program. Some of those things that we might want to look at is foundational reading skills and departmentalizing so that teachers can become masters of their own content areas and split the planning and workload. I think a lot of teachers are becoming more and more overwhelmed with a lot of the different areas, components of things. I know just in my position alone, within the past 4 years, I've taught almost every single grade level. So, making sure that we're at least trying to help those teachers that need the support. Within social emotional needs, we said, what alternative or extra resources do we have to make up for social emotional needs? Do we have specific programs that we're utilizing within the school? Some different programs that we came up with were paths, foundations, which Kathleen says that they do in 1st grade, which talks about social language and how to use our language to be able to talk through different emotions that we're having. And then we put in there talking about possibly doing like zones of regulation so that, we can relate this to, I know Inside Out is not like, it's a movie, but, most kids have seen the movie and they understand, those different things. And then behavior management, we said, having school-wide behavior system, having a Google Drive for different resources. So, there's if I've created something, that I can put it up on Google Drive, and therefore, teachers who want to look for something that potentially they could use within the classroom, they can go to that Google Drive. And then consistency, and then being able to provide resources for parents that might not know what the next step might be.
Sounds good. And you said all that stuff.
Everything's on there.
I think I have hers. So, after looking at the communication survey, we noticed that a lot of parents, for the most part, are able to access have access to the internet. And we noticed that there's at least 7%. So we wanted to find out and figure out that 7%, what is it or what their main issue is. Is it that there isn't any internet in the house, or if it's being able to afford it? We talked about Spectrum having that low income kind of packages, but getting that information and the resources to be able to share with the parents so that they at least have that information in order to help that 7%. Then we talked about how our families feel like it's important for them to receive or communication in different ways or in a timely manner. But one of the major things is to be able to communicate through multiple channels. So inform parents through a variety of different ways. Third one was being able to update the social media websites and website. Actually, I combined the last two. So we went into the discussion around our school website versus social media. With social media, when someone updates or puts a post on there,
it automatically kind of pops up on the parents. If they have access through their phone, it pops up and they're able to decide, do I want to read it right away or later? And then if it's the school website, there isn't any notification. So they would have to go on the website multiple times, as well as finding the right tab to get the information. So trying to find some sort of user-friendly way to update the website, which, because it's district focused, is just a matter of updating it as much as, or as regularly as possible, but also using the social media in order to support that, whether it's putting up there, hey, check out this section on our website. And am I forgetting anything? We did talk about the families who had a question or were more kind of neutral about the information that they were getting. We wanted to have a follow-up question, whether it's through a focus group, on what information are they not receiving. Is it school-wide information? Is it information from the nurse? Is it information from the classroom regarding behavioral or other things? So finding out what information are they not getting in order to really help and improve in that area as well. And we got into a discussion around robocalls, possibly at the beginning, making sure parents know what the school number is versus the central office number, and knowing the two, because we send robocalls, central office also sends robocalls, and then we have spam calls. So if they're not picking up, then we have to figure out, is it because they don't know those numbers? So making sure if they know those numbers, they know which ones to pick up and maybe which ones not to pick up. But also identifying which one of the family members in the home's number gets that robocall, and possibly doing something at the beginning of the school year as a test to see who gets the robocalls and who doesn't, and then going from there to figure it out. But so those are kind of like the major things. I don't know, team, did I leave anything out?
One thought that came to me as I was listening to you here, when people are following your page online, they'll get a notification if they have signed up for the page, or?
Yes, they'll get a notification whenever there's an update.
Have you got any way of checking to see if people have joined the page, basically, so they get notifications so that you can alert them if they haven't?
I know from social media, it sends out, actually social media, Twitter, and even the website that we use for the newsletter, it collects data. So it'll collect how many people actually clicked onto the page, and which ones they liked, or which posts they liked, and things like that. But I'm not sure about that. It does give a number of how many people are following the page.
Yeah, if you've got the names of the people following it, then you can find out who isn't following it based on the parents that you've got. And because I know on location 19, which I manage, we've got 750 people that are technically joined. And if you don't elect to have the notifications about new postings, you don't know what the heck's going on unless you log in, and a lot of people don't. And then I finally figured out, how do I find out who's signed up to get notifications? It was like 150 or something. So you got to make sure that people are aware that they need to be following that.
I put a note that we should talk with Mercedes to see if there is some type of way we can do that, even though it's district.
Because I know I mean, my daughter may, I don't know her mom, but I know
Some people
I don't know
don't
anything
do
about
it,
it.
though. Social media. They don't like it.
I see. I mean, like I said, I don't just sit at my computer. But if I know that there's something on there, you know, at that particular day, I'll go, check it out to see if there's anything new. but I'm not one that's gonna just be on my computer, or, you know. Yeah, because I was at a Girl Scout thing, and I sent the email out this morning. I'm like, I have not been in my house since this morning, so I'm not gonna get the email.
Do you have like a social media, like, director, or do you think it's not personal?
Yeah, Mercedes, she's part of the communication department, so she's does a lot with
Do all of those things.
Yeah, she'll come out, really. She's really helpful.
We did also talk about teacher and staff websites, those being updated, because I know when they first rolled those out, you know, they were trying to push teachers to create their websites and keep them updated on information to share with parents. So I know that's hard, and, you know, being a classroom teacher, kind of keeping that up. But that was another suggestion as well that we could possibly like talk to. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, we just have my husband make it for me.
Well, I remember one year in one of the schools that I was in, that was part of their summer kind of retreat things, was they had someone from downtown come and show them how to log in, access it, and make sure that their name is even listed on the school's website. Because sometimes when you switch schools, they don't update some of the names. So that becomes an issue as well, because it's like, wait, you're not listed. You know, if I'm, as a parent, I'm going to look for you and you're not there. So that becomes a problem. And we did talk about that.
Right, because I was saying that the district, this was before I retired, so it was probably maybe 10 years ago. They really were publicizing to parents, you know, you can go to your child's school's website and you can find out their grades and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, why are they telling parents that? Because at the high school level, yes, you know, because it's connected, but not at the elementary level, you know.
That's true. So that is the info we pulled out. So let's talk about pluses and deltas, and then what are some things we want to focus on for next time? Pluses and deltas. What worked well for today's session, and what we need to change or add to our next session. Thoughts?
I'm gonna break it up into the two groups.
Did that work well?
I know I came late, but I thought it was awesome to see how you all had the team and we're looking at the data and going back and forth, talking about it and talking about, you know, further investigations. I thought that was, you know, powerful how you were doing that.
So anything we need to change or add? It doesn't have to be negative. Change for the better.
You know, now this has nothing to do with this group in particular, but have you ever thought about a competition for classrooms to get like surveys back? You know, the classroom that brings in the most surveys. I mean, I know I used to, at the beginning of the year, you know, you have to have the field trip form, to this form, to that form. And so I would put it all in one pile, and they had a week to get it back to me. And if they got it back to me within a week, then they got a little something, you know, whatever. And that's, I would get almost all of them back, you know.
Well, you can put them in for one of those raffles.
If that is true.
Yeah. And announce like what class brought them all in or whatever.
Yeah, I like all that.
You know, just so you can get more maybe
Yeah,
back.
because I mean, with the communication survey, we only got 43, and we have over 300 parents and families. So it would be nice to hear the other part, you know, to see what else we need to add and do. So yeah, definitely. Any other thoughts? Well, our next meeting is scheduled for January 8th. Yeah, January 8th. And we'll take a look at the student data and I think I'm gonna have a competition for the families because I've only been able to get in just a handful. So that at least we'll have those two pieces to break up into subgroups again and take a look at.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming. And read the Cooper Connections.
Why have you read?
Will do.
Take care. I don't think they gave you a copy for that.
On social media.
Yes. You're on social media?
Don't tell everyone.
Yeah, I shall do that.